Life Check Yourself with Karen Gray. Radical leadership, reinventing work, navigating change, and how to lead with purpose. Hi, everyone. I thought I would change it up because you're used to me going, hey, ladies, but I changed it up for you. Pattern interrupt. Welcome to this episode of Life Check Yourself. I am so excited to have Karen Gray on the show. I was on her podcast. It was so amazing that I was on her podcast. We had such a great conversation that in my mind, I imagined that she was on this show. And so we were like, wait, no, you haven't been on the show. And so I'm so excited for you all to meet her. Karen Gray is the CEO and founder of Gray Legacy Coaching. She's president of the Texas Business Women, Inc., which I want to hear about. And she's considered to be a secret weapon for executives. And God bless, we need secret weapons for executives. She empowers individuals to become confident leaders by unlocking their innate strengths, aligning we talked about this on an Instagram Live yesterday, VIP, values, intentions, and purpose, and transforming self-limiting beliefs to achieve lasting success in life and business. I'm so glad that you're here.
I am so grateful to be here, and I could talk to you every single day. Like we could just,
I know we should. Okay. So
reset.
I want to, this is not unplanned, but we talked on our Instagram Live just generally about executives and then I was on the phone. I had like a networking call yesterday with someone who worked in publishing in brand marketing, for like 8 years. She's like in mid 40s. Mm-hmm. And it was so toxic. So many reorgs, so many lack of communication. And for the first time in her life, she quit before she had another job. And then I woke up this morning. My daughter works in corporate. To a text, I was like, thank God Karen's here. It said, holy shit, her manager's name, broke down crying, asking me what the fuck is going on around here in her organization, which is a big, major fashion brand. Okay. So Karen, what the fuck is going on around here?
You know, gosh, there's so much. Where do we even go?
Where do we begin? If you're going like, oh my God.
Go?
Yeah, exactly. Karen, help me.
I think there's a lot of shifts happening in the world, period.
Yes.
Because of technology, because of, the shifts with media going from mainstream to now the independent platforms. So different conversations are being held. People are stepping into a place where this veil that we've been really complacent and happy to keep on no longer fits. And so we're asking different questions. We're stepping into different places. And, our whole world has been turned upside down the last 5 years after the pandemic.
Yes.
And, just this questioning of, do I believe what people are telling me? Whether you believe it or not, we're still, that's really not the point. We're still having the question, which then leads to other questions. What do I believe about things? And therefore we're asking different questions, and then that dives into other questions. And so we get this place of going, what do I believe? Who am I? And then now we're having to fill in those gaps and those spaces. And so what do we fill that in with? You got two choices.
Yeah, I think that there's so much self-doubt, like the question is like, am I crazy? Am I crazy? Cause that just doesn't feel right. Or am I overly demanding or overly needy? And what's interesting about the two examples I gave you, one is someone who's in their late 20s and one who's in their, mid to late 40s, right? So I think that this isn't, and because you could say, what generation are they? They, started working
the
pandemic.
Millennials or the Gen X or whatever.
They don't know, they need to suck it up. They're entitled, da, da, da. But I'm not sure that's it, right? Mm-hmm. So for someone who is either an executive, because in the end, and I never really worked directly in corporate, but I've helped so many people who do. Yeah. In the end, it's like the person above them, who's the person above them, who's the person above them. So if someone is not the CEO of freaking Dell or Google or, some big massive corporation, can these individual executives really change the culture? Can they create something if they really start operating from this VIP values? What's the I? Intention and purpose. Like, is this possible? I want to kind of start there and then go like, if yes, great, what do we do? And if no, then what do like the regular humans who are in the machine do?
I think everybody can change our bubble, our expectations, our own personal things that we allow. But each one can change one, or each one can reach one, however you want to say it. But yes, so if you have any kind of influence in a company, in your own business, the people you touch, you can create a ripple effect. So to think that you are powerless, you will continue to look for reasons and proof why you're powerless, and you'll find it.
Yeah. And so that is the call to action for every person who works anywhere. Right. To be like, okay, I may not be at the very tip top. The world might be in chaos, but what is in my control is how I show up for the people on my team and for 100%. Myself to the people who are above me. So what are some like beginning steps to have your own at work, soul revolution?
Yeah. I love soul revolution. That's so cool. I call it a work transformation, because it begins with work, right? You have to make the decision to do something. Where to start? It all begins, and I hate to simplify it to make it so rudimentary, but it really is a choice. How do you treat yourself? How do you allow others to treat you? And then how do you live by example by how you treat them? And creating this standard of intention, this standard of purpose, this standard of values, and not compromising that no matter what.
And also I would say like not have doubt about the fact that that's okay, or that you're not too much. We see that what I'm doing doesn't matter. What I'm doing doesn't make a difference. We somehow feel that way. And I have been in that place as well. But then somehow God always comes back and reminds me that the little things that I did, even though they were in the dark, or even though it was just a one-on-one call with someone who didn't have any influence, that made a difference in their life. And then they made a difference in someone else's. And so that still made an impact, and somehow, some way that got to people that needed to know it. And I just trust that it will. And so, yes, you can make a difference. And sometimes it does start super simple. And sometimes it's those times when you really don't want to act in integrity. You really want to just lash out and get retribution, or you want to lash out and make it justified how you felt. Those are the moments when you need to give the most grace, the most love, and really just this empathy and understanding that whatever's going on in that person's life, why they're so hateful or so controlling or so fear-based, that's a reflection on them. That hurt person is still valuable. And if you can see them as a connection in a soul, that somehow we're all interconnected. And if you see it that way, when I'm reacting in retribution or trying to defend myself and being hateful because they were hateful, that brings me to a lower energy, a lower vibe. Right. And then I ruin my day because I've now retaliated and acted in a way that I didn't like when they treated me that way. Why would I continue it and perpetuate it? But it's so much more if we could just take a breath and realize we're all humans trying to figure this out and have some grace and forgiveness. Our parents taught us things sometimes that we don't understand, but looking back in hindsight, they're just humans trying to figure out the human existence and trying to figure out how to raise kids. What if your boss was that way, or this person that's being so hateful? They're just a person who's trying to figure stuff out, and
They're bringing all of their baggage, all of their rocks, all of their wounds to this job too. They're probably stressed. They're probably going through a lot of stuff. Does it justify it? Probably not.
No, yeah.
But it might help you understand it, to have a little bit of empathy. And in those moments when they're doing things that are unkind, what if we could just reach out and say, look, I sense that you're going through some things. How can I help? And just with this calm empathy, how can I help? How can I make this better? What can I do to be a part of the process to help transform this situation?
And I think that's so important. So, because one of the questions that I think, I'm just noticing my little gray hairs. One of the things that
cute little gray hairs.
Yes, they're, as I said yesterday, they'll be gone soon. One of the questions that I hear leaders say, which like is my pet peeve. And I think people say this in lots of different relationships, but there's trouble, there's trauma, there's conflict, there's change. And someone just says like, are you okay? But they know that you're not okay because you expressed it or it's obvious.
Right.
What's a better way to say like, I know you're struggling. And I maybe can't even help you because this is just the way it is, right? But like, where's the authenticity that is communicated even when I can't solve your problem for you because my own hands are tied or because that's the way it is or whatever it is? Because are you okay? It's like, no, bro, you know I'm not okay.
Yeah. Depending on the relationship you have with that person and male versus male-female, female-female, there's different ways to approach it. But I love saying, I see you and I see that you're hurting, or I see you and something's off. So let's say I don't know what's going on.
Right.
That's how I would approach it. I see you. And they're like, yeah, no, I see you. How can I help? So and if you can't help, then I see you and know that what you're going through matters. Even if I can't do anything about it, what you're going through matters and you're not in this alone.
Yeah, because I think that since the pandemic, and please correct me if I'm wrong, but I feel like a lack of authenticity is so much more visible. We're all so much more informed and aware. And so when someone is saying, like, we're all going to go back in the office and I love seeing you in the elevators, or we're all going to do, and you're like, don't, whatever. So how can individuals, so that was a really great, write that down all, like what you can say, is like, how can I be a better communicator? How can I bring authenticity to my team, to my department, to my work, when everyone else is sort of trying to cover things up or not being authentic? Is it safe? Is it safe? Do you need to litmus check this? Like, is it okay for me to be authentic here? Or is there times when you just play the game?
Depending on the circumstance and where you stand, there's always a time when you play your cards close. I never encourage anybody to completely compromise who they are, but there are times that everybody doesn't need to know everything about you. So sometimes you're just the quiet observer in the room, waiting for the moment when it's appropriate. There's a company that I help support and coach with my husband, and going through some really toxic changes and some really toxic cultures. And one of the things that we talk about with that team is just a reminder that you can't control how managers react, how the owners react. You can control how you treat yourself, how you treat others, and what you allow to impact you. Sometimes you just have to say, okay, this is a circumstance I'm going through. This is a season. So you put it into context. This is a season. This is a day. This is a week. This is whatever's going on. We give it a timeline, because if it feels like it's forever, it's unbearable. But if you know it's a day, or you know that this is just the slow season because you're going through Christmas, or it's a busy season and things just feel overwhelming. When we can see daylight in a timeline, that helps us put some context to it. But then sometimes you have people, and if you can see them, so there's two ways to see them. I see them as a human. They have a heart, and I know they're just hurt. Hurt people hurt people. We know this, right? We are reacting. But then there's another thing of when you just see them as they're not impactful. They're not in my front row. They're not someone that has a direct impact on my life. They almost feel like the robot in the room. And so it's a psychosomatic thing that we can just, how do I choose to see this person? Are they an inanimate object that I don't have to deal with? Or do I truly want to see them as a soul that's hurting?
I think Brene Brown calls it like, are these people in the cheap seats, right? Like in the arena, they're like right. So far away. And so they may be doing this and doing that. And
and sometimes
like
they're
their
just
opinion
in the room.
Right. And so how can you just put them in the cheap seats without also, having judgment or gossiping or making them inhuman, right? Because they are a person.
The judgment is they're bringing out a trigger in you. And so by whatever they're doing, somehow it's bringing up something in me. So when I feel a certain way and I feel really strongly about it, I know that's my trigger. They have caused me to really bubble up something. And I'm like, oh, okay, I'm feeling really, but I'm really pissed off at them right now. What did they bring up in me that's evoking that emotion? And then it's like, wow, thank you for that. You just completely shined a spotlight in an area that I thought I had buried, I had dealt with, I had worked through, and obviously not. So there's room for me to grow and improve in that area. Or sometimes it's just, I'm off. I haven't taken care of me. So I don't have a full cup so that I can give them grace. I need to go back and put my oxygen mask on, go back to my journaling, go back to my meditation, and just recenter. Because when I'm centered and I'm full, that just doesn't hurt me. It's when I'm running on empty and I'm burned out and I feel like I've given everybody everything.
Right.
And I don't even have fumes left for me. And now you're demanding something else. Okay. Yeah. Now I'm irritated at you. And then that really doesn't serve, so it's just that self-awareness, going back, checking in. Who am I? What do I need? What is it that I have to give? And then what is it that they're showing me about me?
What do you think that most people miss in terms of being a successful, and I mean like a wholehearted, full person in how they're showing up to make work meaningful for them?
I think oftentimes we live lives that other people have encouraged us to live, whether that's a parent that's led us down a route, a mentor, we just kind of fell into a job, or we're doing something that just for whatever reason was the path that we chose. And we refuse to accept that this doesn't fit and honor ourselves in that. Not that makes job sense. And the path that you're going down is a waste. You're always learning something, right? Even if it's what not to do or what, who you don't want to be like. But when you continue to live in that and you just feel this disconnect from your calling, or your disconnect from, the things that really light your soul on fire, or that just feel like light and loving and make you happy. And you're just out of that again. And I go back to this every time. This isn't aligning with, what I truly value. If I value family and I'm living a life and chasing a job that doesn't allow me to spend time with my family, I'm going to feel disconnected. I'm going to feel dissatisfied.
Yeah. Yeah.
If I'm having to compromise who I am and the purpose I'm here to live, I'm going to feel compromised.
And that's, I think why that one example that I talked to, she was like, I can't keep doing this. Right. It's so funny. I just posted a Substack about my own journey of like that whole fantasy of like, I'm going to wait. Maybe it'll get better. I've already invested this many years. I just have to keep going.
Oh my gosh. Okay. Let's just talk about that for a second.
Yeah, because that's like a huge one that was for me really hard to keep. Like it was in my way a while to like make my own pivot.
Yes, me too. So sunk cost isn't just in a company or an investment, or sometimes that sunk cost is your time, your energy, your identity, your heart and soul, sweat, tears. Like you've just stayed with a company and you've given it your loyalty. And you're like, I can't leave here. I've been here 6 years, 5 years, 10 years, 20 years, 30 years, whatever it is, whether that's a marriage, a relationship, a friendship, a job, a house. Things that we have this sunk investment in, and we refuse to cut ties and leave. Yet we know that we should not be here anymore. And I want to just help mirror back and give a reflection. If you know that lesson has served its time, or that person, whatever it is, give yourself the grace and love, and that person, the love to honor that sometimes time is time, and it's time to go. There's a season and a time for that. Maybe it's time to let go. Sunk costs don't serve you to keep sinking investments into them.
Right. I call it like time denial, you just say, oh, well, just one more year, just one more, whatever. Like when I think that it's actually been 5 years since the pandemic,
right.
It's like, how did you spend that 5 years? Right. And I think for a lot of people, there was a big shift in 2020, 2021, and here we are, 2025. And what you thought then may now, you have evolved. Time has changed. The society's changed. Culture's changed. Like, can you talk about like why it's okay to make a pivot? Like, why can you like be 30, 50, 60, whatever, and be like, you know what? I did this, and now I've learned that what I really want to do is this. There's like nothing wrong with the pivot, but I think people are like, oh, are you pivoting your career? Like, especially if you're like someone who like wants to leave a job or wants to do something different.
Well, you see this example before us where people got into an industry and they started a company at 19, or started in a corporation working for a business at a young age, and they stayed and they retired there. And we know that that's not traditionally what happens now. When I left, I'll give you my example. When I left my financial career after 34 years of working.
You don't look old enough to have done anything for 34 years, Karen.
I know, but I served. And when I say 34 years, I started as a part-time teller, and then full-time. And then I've been in all of these different positions, financial services, banking, credit unions. So somehow, some way I was tied to the financial services industry. And even when I was part-time and doing other stuff, I still did this on the side until the day that I decided, because I had taken tests and accumulated all of these FINRA licenses, so securities investment licenses that aren't easy to get. I was miserable doing that career, hated it, but I had achieved them, and I was a financial advisor, and somehow took that on as my identity and my worth and value, and it made me somehow think I was something.
All those letters of our name were like, they're like so little important. Like layers of the Jenga thing, and you're like, look, I can't pull anything out.
Right. But the funny thing is that they also made me feel like a failure because I was misaligned. And so those letters really didn't mean anything to me other than here's something I've done that I no longer love. And so when I decided to go do something else, it was at the advisement of my principal at the time. And principal, he was the owner of the investment company I worked for, and my manager. And he said, Karen, you're so passionate about helping others. why don't you do something that creates a living around helping others so that you can go be happy? You're not happy here. And it took someone reflecting that to me from the outside to give me permission, for me to give me permission to go do that. So sometimes it's literally just seeing that we can give ourselves permission to be happy. What is the true value of what I'm doing here? And then what I did is I went back and later on in coaching, because I felt kind of guilty about starting this over and what will people think? And I'm starting over again. I started this career. Now I'm doing this and all of the what ifs, shoulda, wouldas. But I went back and looked at all of these things I'd invested in, and I put on one side of paper, all the things that I'd done. I invested in these licenses. I got this certification. I did this and this and this and all of these things. And then on this side of the paper, I put what they gave me. What did I gather from that? And then now it didn't feel like a waste. Now it felt like, oh, I've been investing this whole time to do what I'm doing next. Now it makes so much sense. I can see how all the lines are dotted and it's all directing me to this path, because I wouldn't be the coach and the person that I am today had I not gone through those different things. And when I can see it as all pointing me to this path.
Yeah. Polishing.
Now it all makes sense. And I can, justify it in my head. Like, okay, this makes sense.
Yeah, it makes sense.
But
right?
I can justify it in my heart because now it's all aligned to my values, my intentions and alignment. And now I know my purpose.
I love this. I was writing up the chairlift with this 24-year-old a couple weeks ago, and he asked me what I do, and he works for the Forest Service. And before that, he was 24. And before that, he was an electrician. I was like, dude, how can you have done all these things and you're only 24? But he said, you're a life coach. What life advice do you have for me? And I was like, you're going to probably do like so many different things. So don't stress it. They're all sort of guiding you to this one thing. And he was like, oh, okay, cool. He's 24, right?
Yeah.
But that is what you're just saying, right? Is that like, if we're evolving and we have this old paradigm that says like, we pick a thing and we do it, we get so pissed at ourselves when things don't work anymore. Yeah.
And we see ourselves, here's the thing, we see ourselves and we label it as a failure, when it truly is just another experience and more learning and more lessons for the next version of us.
Amen. You say that so
Why
calmly.
Judge that? Like, yeah. Seriously, why? Like, oh, I needed that lesson. We go to school for lessons. Why not have life lessons? That just makes so much sense.
That's so true. Someone once told me.
And for those that don't ski, she was on a chairlift. You were skiing, right?
Yeah, I was skiing. Yeah, okay. I was skiing. I was on a chairlift. I had the solo
going,
ski day, and like my favorite part was all these fabulous conversations I had with people going up the chairlift.
You're not with somebody else, on the chairlift that you know. How fun.
Yeah, usually I'm just like, blah, blah, blah. I was going to say something profound, but it left, so that's fine. One of the things I think that is really important is to think about, so what, now what is basically right. Like, so
yes,
right now what, you don't have a crystal ball, but you're on the pulse, right? What do you see happening? Like, where is the future of work? Like, what do you think is going to happen? If you could even just give a guesstimation based on what you're observing. And
I think a few facets. I think technology is obviously at this breakneck speed right now with AI, and just the adaptability there is, I can't even fathom how much that's going to change everything. And at the same time, it's making the things that require our personal touch and our personal interaction so much more desperately and direly needed. So 2 things: we need to adapt. We need to understand AI, how to use it safely, how to integrate it into our business, because it will become the future of business. It just will. That is the direction we're headed. But how do we not lose connection? And that's with those intimate conversations. So maintaining first your front row people. So if you're if you're in business, who is your personal advisor board? Even if you don't have a business advisory board, who is your personal advisor board, so that they're continually watching and supporting and mirroring back things that they see, so that you're not getting out of alignment with your VIP. Because sometimes we're aware of it, sometimes we're not. But then, how are they pushing you to continue learning, to continue advancing, to stay on the edge of things that make sense, and helping you stay rooted and connected? Because the things that can happen, just like the society that we lost our grounding, when we added rubber shoes and everybody started, really disconnecting, and we're just surrounded by all of these energy, and everything's like just concrete and carpet and synthetic. We lost our ability to ground. That's so important, to get back outside, to ground and to stay connected. We have to stay connected to the earth and to people. And so making sure that you're still doing that is so critical. But business is just about relationships when it comes down to it. The AI will help us reach more people.
Right.
But if you're not continuing to evolve your communication skills, if you're not continuing to stay better, adapted and connected and hone those skills, you will lose out and be lost in the fray of the matrix. That's what I just see coming, because I see people getting lost already in the middle of it, and they end up screaming so loud that now nobody hears them.
Yeah. And that's to not have your voice and to feel lost and to feel disempowered.
Yeah. Or to give your voice over to AI, because that's the other really tempting, easy thing, is to acquiesce your power over to AI and let AI do it all for you. And we can't lose that human touch. AI can do things so much faster, better, quicker, but we have to continue keeping our voice in this, keeping our thoughts. No one can replace the human thought, the human heart, the human vibration, and our empathy and passion. That's what keeps us human.
No, I love that. And I think, and that's what you're saying, like there's the heart set and the skill set. Like we have to learn how to use AI to bring out and to enhance our human voice. And how do we use that while also, like, on the human to human side, we have to learn the skills to also connect. We have
to keep the soft skills, right? AI will do the hard skills, I think, in most cases. But the soft skills can't be replaced.
They can't. So crazy. Yeah. Thank you for being here. This was so fun. You're amazing.
Thank you.
I want everyone to know Karen Gray.
Love it. Thank you.
Ladies, there were so many concrete, practical tips. We have some languaging you can use. We have some motivation that's in here. There is a recalibration opportunity for you to get grounded and figure out from a place of your best, highest self, like what your next move is. Share this with someone who is struggling at work. Share this with someone who wants to give up. Share it with someone who doesn't feel heard, and remind them that they are empowered. That's how we spread the ripple effect for me and for Karen as well. And in the meantime,
lives.
Yeah, right? Radical thinking. The ripple effect. In the meantime, as Karen said, it's your responsibility to life check yourself. So yeah, go do that. And we'll see you next time. Bye-bye for now.
Hey, thanks for tuning in today. Listen, if you're feeling stuck, I want you to know you're not alone. And you don't have to settle for it. I've created a free quiz to help you pinpoint what's draining your energy and exactly how you can fix it. So head over to decodeyourdestinyquiz.com and take the 60-second quiz right now. That's decodeyourdestinyquiz.com. And if you're ready to dive deeper, you can book a free no-obligation consultation at marnibatista.com/private coaching. That's Marni, M-A-R-N-I, Batista, B-A-T-T-I-S, as in Sam, T-A.com /private coaching, all one word. Let's take the first step to creating a life you love on your terms. I'm Marnie, and I'll see you next time.